something that is hard to compute. When I had more time, I did not have the external motivators.
Ruslan.
When I had more time, I did not have the external motivators of a wife and a son. But I had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And then when I got the external motivators, I had less time.
That's so interesting.
You know what I mean? And so I think it's super wild how that we can have, you know, a lot of time on our hands and not really have that drive.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's real, man.
To do it. And I think
you would think it would be the opposite.
You would think it would be the opposite. And that's like, I think a lot of what I'm trying to communicate and instill through this channel or whatever is like, hey, like you can, like if you can think as if you are already married and there is a family depending on you when you're younger, then you can make decisions to build revenue streams, a career, a business
type stuff.
And that later you end up having the freedom to not have to work a job and pursue your hustle and be a husband and be a father. A lot of people are in that spot. That's a tough spot to be in.
For sure.
You know, because if you're an entrepreneur, at some point, even if you know how to work a job, at some point you're just not going to be able to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're just not going to be able to function,
yeah.
you know? And so, and shout out to all the people that like got like regular 9-to-5s and got regular jobs to provide for your families. Like that's very noble. But you know how tough that can be. Y'all know how hard that can be. You know what I'm saying? To be someone that's wired a certain way and you have to be submitted to someone else's schedule for you and all that kind of stuff.
Legit.
But if you can catch that window when there's like, yo, there's a lot of time. I have a lot of time. And maybe you're just dating. Maybe you are married, but you don't have kids yet. You're going to wait to have kids for a few years. And you have that window of time. And I feel like now with stuff like this channel, Brandman Sean, there's so many different ways to understand how revenue streams work with art that you can build something and build some infrastructure so that when you do have the kid, you have more liberty and freedom to maneuver how you want to maneuver, and it's less of a burden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what would you say to a person that needs to get that urgency going? Because like we had that talk last night, and I was like, yo, I just need to do something. Like I need to just get off my butt. And I think just mentors like is a big thing, and just having people that will speak that into your life. But is there anything else that you would say like that if someone's watching this and they're like, and they're just like this nonchalant kind of feeling, like what would you say to that person?
I would say, there's a quote, it's partly inspired by David Goggins, but I say, choose your suffering before your suffering chooses you. So choose to suffer in ways that is uncomfortable now, because later you don't know what is going to choose you to suffer, how you're going to suffer later. Right? So like choose to suffer in the moment, whatever that thing you need to do to suffer now, whether it's waking up early, whether that's learning profit margins so you can know what this hoodie sells for and how to, you know what I mean? How to the right price point, like whatever that, and how many do you need to sell to make X amount? You know what I'm saying? Like figure out what that stuff is. And I'm not saying you need to be an Excel wizard, or I'm not saying you need to be a math wizard. I'm saying like figure out that stuff though and be willing to suffer through it, because later you won't have the choice. Later somebody else will have that choice, or life will spurt circumstances on you, you know? And so for me, and I've told you this, like I got DJ Michael is going to come and stay with me for a month in January. You know what I'm saying? And that's his way of like, hey man, I want to work on these areas. And I'm like, just come to California and just live with me. You know what I'm saying? And you're
gonna have a whole camp here pretty soon.
Yeah, and I would love that. And that's why like that master bedroom upstairs, I'm keeping that open. Like I'm not gonna have a roommate in there, is because I want to be in a position to serve people in that way.
That's dope.
Because if I can help inspire a generation of creative entrepreneurs who, you know, they're under 25, they aren't married, they have the time, fitness is such a great metaphor. You know what I'm saying? Fitness is such a great metaphor for entrepreneurship, for life in general. Like suffer through beating your body up.
True, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And eating things you're not accustomed to eating, and trying to avoid things you are. It's such a great metaphor for life, or basketball. Such a great metaphor for teamwork. You know what I mean? Like I feel like who you are in the context of teams is who you really are on the basketball court. If you can play basketball, you know what I'm saying? Like the person who is an only child who doesn't do well in teams never passes the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to be me. I'm an only child. You know what I'm saying? My mom's only child. And
That's
so,
funny.
so I would say like, can you intentionally put yourself in circumstances where you can suffer? You know, and if you can, then suffering will become easier, and then before you know it, you will enjoy it, and then before you know it, you'll feel sick without it.
Wow, that's
you know what I mean?
deep. That's
like
deep.
I go to New York, and I can wake up when I want. I can go to sleep when I want. I just got back, right? I can wake up when I want, go to sleep when I want, eat what I want. No one's paying attention. It's just me. Foggy was there with me for a couple days.
Right.
And bro, I hated it. Like I hated having my time off. I hated not waking up and driving straight to the gym.
Wow.
I hated not being able to eat what I want to eat and cook my own food.
Wow.
I hated it. And so it's one of those things where you discipline yourself, and then like the only thing I'm thinking about is like, God, I just want to get back home so I can get back into my routine of being up by 6 and being to the gym by 6:30 and eating my oatmeal and my eggs and my kale. You know what I'm saying? like you just end up loving the things you hate. You know what I mean? It just takes time.
Yeah.
You know?
And it takes that you're just getting used to it, yeah? And then once you just get in that flow, when you get out of that flow, it feels weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
the flow state. It's like that flow state. Like how can you find the flow state for the optimal deliverance of the person you want to become? You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of you guys are there in terms of your zeal for Jesus and your heart for Jesus, but then it's like the rest of it. You know what I mean? How does that touch everything else? You know?
No, that's real.
For me, getting married was great. You know what I'm saying? It was that thing that snapped me into place and grew me up. And within a couple years, I was making more money and doing great. You know what I mean? And then a couple years after that, I was married. And that is what I needed. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone figuring that out. What I don't want to see happen is the people who really love Jesus push out being married more and more. And then they wake up, they're 35, they don't have kids yet, then they're trying to have kids, and then a generation does this of like, I'm going to spend my 20s being an entrepreneur, right? And say best case scenario, they don't struggle with porn, they're not sexually promiscuous, they're like crushing it, right? And this is we know this is a very small percentage of people in their 20s that are like, yeah, man, God's got me. I'm not sexting with anybody. I'm not sending nudes. I'm not sleeping around. I'm not looking at porn. Let's just say best case scenario. Then they crush it in their 20s. They build a career they want to have. They wake up at 30. They're making 6 figures, and then they're like, now I'm going to pursue marriage. And then they get married, and then they're like, yeah, but we want to have a couple years to ourselves. And then finally, they're 35, 36, 37, and then they try to have their first kid.
And then it's like mad late. Yeah.
And then it's late, and then you run into some health complications potentially. And you know what I mean? It becomes harder, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would hate to see this generation do. It's best case scenario, you aren't burning with lust, and you can crush it in your 20s and be sexually pure. Like, if you could do that, kudos to you guys. You know what I'm saying? But you get there, and you're 35. And now what's happening is now, from a cultural standpoint, we aren't reproducing, and Christians aren't taking the land. We aren't being the majority. I mean, we're not the majority now. Like Bible-believing, Holy Spirit-filled Christians are not the majority now, right? So imagine a couple generations in the future, all the Christians who should have had kids, right? Who should have been loving Jesus and having kids and pursuing their careers, aren't. And what does the world look like in 30, 40 years? You know what I'm saying? When our lineage, you know what I mean, dies off because we didn't have kids.
Dang.
You know?
Yeah, that's real. That's deep, man. Sheesh.
Yeah, man.
This was a good convo.
This is stuff I be thinking about, bro.
This is fire. Dang. Well, hopefully you guys benefited from our suffering, our talking about touchy things.
Yeah.
And yeah, now go be fruitful, multiply.
Yo, thank you guys for watching this. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Montel Fish's channel, following him on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. You guys want to hear more conversations like this? Let me know, man. Some of this stuff is very personal. I don't really talk a whole lot about like marriage and entrepreneurship and when and how and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like it's important. So let me know. Peace.